Chapter 19 of the Quran holds a highly specific distinction. It is a major Islamic text named entirely after Mary, the mother of Jesus. The chapter, known as Surah Maryam, details a sequence of extraordinary supernatural events. It outlines an immaculate conception, details comforting divine voices speaking during labor, and describes a newborn infant speaking in full sentences directly from the crib. The text directs these incredible events toward a specific purpose, a categorical refutation of the claim that Jesus is the Son of God. Curious, how does a text that fully embraces the reality of a miraculous virgin birth simultaneously reject any assertion of divine lineage? Surah Maryam redefines the miracle as a demonstration of a creator's absolute power to bring things into existence, a unilateral command entirely separate from biological paternity. The text establishes this logic right from its opening verses with the story of Zechariah. He is an elderly man with a barren wife, yet when he prays for an heir in private, God grants him a son named John, simply by commanding the boy to be. This early narrative sets a theological precedent. Creating life where it should be physically impossible is shown as a demonstration of divine capability, entirely detached from standard reproduction. We see this exact precedent applied to Mary. When the intense pains of labor begin, she withdraws from her family to an eastern location. Driven to despair by the physical agony, she isolates herself by the trunk of a palm tree. In her most vulnerable moment, a voice calls out to her from below, revealing that God has placed a stream of water at her feet. Medical observations note that the sight and sound of running water help regulate autonomic muscle movements, offering a practical, natural way to ease labor pains. The voice then instructs her to shake the palm tree to drop ripe dates. Dates contain high levels of oxytocin, a specific substance utilized in modern medicine to facilitate childbirth and reduce bleeding. The mention of ripe dates falling from the tree places the birth of Jesus in the autumn, specifically late September or early October, when dates actually ripen in the Middle East. By focusing on her severe pain and providing these practical physiological remedies, the text anchors Mary in intense human vulnerability. It deliberately frames her as a mortal woman enduring a physical ordeal, preventing any interpretation of her as a supernatural entity. When Mary finally returns to her people carrying the newborn, her community is outraged. They immediately accuse her of unchastity and committing a terrible sin. Instead of arguing back, she simply points to the child. Here, the text deploys its most striking miracle. The infant Jesus defends her by speaking coherent, eloquent sentences right from the crib. But his very first words define his exact nature. He explicitly declares, "I am the servant of Allah," announcing that he has been given scripture and made a prophet. This self-identification serves a highly specific purpose. By immediately calling himself a servant, he strips away any assumed divine status and binds himself to a long, unified tradition of human messengers. Surah Maryam reinforces this by immediately listing the prominent figures who came before him, highlighting the legacies of Abraham, Moses, Aaron, Ishmael, and the prophet Enoch. The chapter points out that they all share one defining characteristic. They are deeply devout mortals who fall down weeping and prostrating whenever divine revelations are recited to them. The miracle of a speaking infant places Jesus firmly within the category of human prophets, a purely mortal vessel submissive to his creator. All of these accounts build directly to the text's ultimate theological claim, an absolute refutation of the concept that the Most Merciful has begotten a son. The Quran lays down a universal law. Every single entity across the heavens and the earth will approach God in one way, and one way only, as a submissive servant. The physical stakes of getting this wrong are described in cosmic terms. The text warns that asserting God has a son is a claim so violently incorrect that it almost causes the heavens to rupture, the earth to split, and the mountains to crumble. It explicitly labels the idea a monstrous fabrication. In this theological framework, attributing offspring to God is a severe violation of the Creator's absolute, indivisible nature. The text then outlines the consequences for generations who abandon this truth to follow their own worldly appetites. It graphically describes a day of judgment where rebellious factions and wrongdoers are rounded up and forced onto their knees around hell. To ensure no one misses this warning, the chapter closes with a meta-statement about its own existence. It explains that this revelation was deliberately delivered in plain Arabic, so that mankind could easily comprehend its profound reality. Surah Maryam takes the most famous miraculous birth in history and uses it to deliver a stark ultimatum. You must choose between accepting the role of a devoted servant to inherit the mercy of paradise or facing the reality of a cosmic judgment.